you check the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego, yeah.
And we are here to do another review of a brand new movie that is out and available. However, this is one that is less on the horror side, definitely more on the thriller side. However, I think that we can skirt by on this one because the horrors of war are definitely a very real thing, and there are a lot of what many people would call horrific situations in this film. So I think we can get away with it, to be honest with you. So
Absolutely. There's a reason they invited us to the press screening.
yeah,
you know?
exactly. So we are here to talk about Alex Garland's Civil War. And this is A24's film, which A24 is a boutique studio that hammers out of the park, I would say, a vast majority of their releases. Vast, maybe not. A majority of their releases.
Probably more so on my side, right?
Yeah, you would say vast majority.
Yeah,
I would say majority.
Yeah. I mean, I would contend there's always merit, even if it's of the more obscure variety and not for everybody. But there's always an audience out there somewhere, whether it's a little more thought-provoking, off-center, or whatever. But, they've been veering a little bit more so into, I'd say, straightforward filmmaking. And they're even saying they're going to start doing some
Bigger budget stuff.
mid-level, bigger budget stuff, which I contend Civil War is most definitely one of those examples going forward for them.
This was a good example of what can be accomplished that feels, at least on a bigger scale than what they normally do produce. So I think in that sense, they were successful with this one. We're going to do this review like we do our normal reviews, which is talk about our overall thoughts, then the story, the acting, the effects, the filmmaking, all of that good stuff in turn. And I'll start and say that this is clearly a well-made, nay, fantastically made film. It is high-level filmmaking. Alex Garland once again demonstrates his abilities as a director. But everyone involved with the film should be proud of themselves because it looked phenomenal, it played phenomenal, it had a definite aesthetic. But for me, this was a bit of an exercise in, well, yeah, no shit, in my opinion. That's the thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's a worst case scenario for a lot of people, but unfortunately, I'm of the opinion that this is where the country is heading if things continue the way that they do, or the way that they are right now. So I do think the film is prophetic, but I do think it plays a little bit too much in the prophecy and maybe goes a bit overboard at times. However, I don't think that anything we saw in this film is outside the realm of possibility. So if that's a little confusing to the audience as like, well, what did he actually think? I understand, because I'm a little confused as to what I actually think. I am, quite frankly, impressed across the board with the filmmaking. I'm impressed across the board with the acting, but the story to me left something to be desired. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for me, although I lean more towards the very positive from the filmmaking standpoint alone. Fuego?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are going to give crap to a British dude taking on this subject, and Alex Garland, I loved everything he's done, writing 28 Days Later, and he wrote the novel that The Beach was based on, the DiCaprio movie, and then as he veered into directing himself, I even liked Men, as divisive as that film is.
Oh, he directed that one?
He directed that.
Oof.
And
that's a woof from me.
Ex Machina, Annihilation.
Ex Machina and Annihilation are A tier films.
Yeah, he's beyond talented, and being in a more grounded sense of storytelling with this. And just to piggyback briefly on what you said, so it is fantasy, but it's definitely fantasy rooted in feasibility and in the realities of of possibility and everything. And so this is a fascinating film, but quite flawed at times for me. I feel like there is a little, I'm not going to say full-on false advertising, but there's a lot of people who are going to go into this movie thinking it's something it's not quite. And then there's also a lot of people who are going to talk mad smack and boycott this movie or whatever based on subject matter, certain contingents of our country. And they're probably a little off basis about what this actually explores within its narrative, because I was thinking it was going to be super large scale. And it is to a degree, but it's actually a lot more personal and smaller than I was expecting as well, based on the amount of people that it focuses on. And
it's actually a lot closer to monsters than a lot of other films out there, to be honest.
The Gareth Edwards, right?
Yeah.
I think it was like maybe his first feature or one of his first things that he did. But
at its core, it's a road trip movie.
Very much so, yeah. And so,
which I loved, to be honest with you. I didn't know that. Like I agree with you in so much.
Vague, man. And
yeah,
it kind of leads you to believe it's one thing when it focuses much more so on other aspects of the premise than you're expecting. And I did actually enjoy that, because for me, since we're not spoiling things, and this is one where we could spoil the hell out of it if we wanted to. I don't know if we should or not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I didn't even watch the second trailer to this, so
I didn't either.
Pretty much full on blind, just knowing it's a second American Civil War, and that's about it. And we know we're hanging with some journalists primarily that are covering this event.
I didn't even gather that much, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what's at least in the IMDb description. So we're not going to be that they haven't put out there themselves. And yeah, the first trailer didn't even make it known that that's where the primary focus is going to lie. And so I was impressed with this movie. I quite liked it, but I did not love it. And I'm not going to be overzealous like a lot of these journalists out of South by Southwest who are like, best film of the year, earth-shattering, all this different
I already saw a few of those on Twitter on the way home.
I didn't.
Not that I'm looking at Twitter in the car on the way home. At stoplights on the way home.
Yeah, and this wasn't an instance of burden of expectation either, because of the fact that I went in, just kind of tempered, and just mainly because of the fact that I don't love war movies. I mean, I love fantasy shit like Starship Troopers and whatnot, but as far as like full-blown war movies,
they're not my preferred bag either. Yeah,
it's not mine, but I like exploring all the collateral damage of war, whether it's post-traumatic stuff, or in this case those who are following the war and they're firsthand documenting the conflict, which is what this film is actually about, without getting too much into it. And so
Kirsten Dunst actually with a pretty solidly powerhouse performance.
Amen, man.
Yeah.
She started out in goofy comedy stuff, like Bring It On, and even stuff that was darkly comedic like Marie Antoinette. But
I gotta say, at some points, not to cut you off, but I just gotta get this out. I was like, that's not my Mary Jane. What happened to Mary Jane? Like, did Spider-Man die 10 years ago? It's like Mary Jane if Spider-Man died 10 years ago. Like, that's the version of the character.
She became a grizzled war photographer.
And actually, that's, honestly, I was thinking, and I felt so like, there's a word that I can't think of, so, like, surface level for thinking this, but I was like, man, they really are like just like not trying to gussy her up at all, right? This is a not post-apocalyptic, but this is it's actual during war scenario where she's not caring about putting on makeup and putting on a lot of makeup. There was a little bit of lip stuff going on, but like I was interested in that, and then they used it as a part of the story in a particular moment when they stopped along the way and found a store, and you got to see a little glimmer of the Mary Jane version of Kirsten Dunst. But that was just the Spider-Man movie lover in me.
It would be free Kirsten Dunst when she had the blonde hair, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that was the Gwen Stacy. No, Gwen Stacy had the blonde hair in Spider-Man 3.
Boy, I could have sworn they changed her hair for...
Oh, they changed her hair a couple times, but it was usually red.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, she was amazing in this film. Kirsten Dunst was incredible.
Yeah.
And everyone was really great. I particularly liked Sammy. You know, that was a really great role. But everyone was engaging, acting-wise. Because story, we can't say much about the story without spoiling. So, acting-wise, I think everyone was phenomenal. I mean, everyone helped to have me buy into the world. Because everyone that they put on screen felt like they were in that world, even if they didn't address the state of the world. They felt of that world. And that's something to be accomplished.
Yeah, as far as the acting goes, I want to give props to Kaylee Spaney, man. I just saw her last year in Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, where she played Priscilla Presley, and she was excellent in that movie.
Wait, which actress was that? The younger
Kaylee Spaney, Jessie, the young
Jessie.
one who looks up.
How old is she? They say she's 23, but I swear to God, she looks 17.
She just has that look about her. She's in her early 20s, I believe. She's
Good
actually 25.
Lord.
She's 25.
So she was 23 when they filmed this then.
Yeah, so
that's
like,
crazy.
like
she
little
looks
sprite,
so
you know?
young. Yeah, it's crazy.
Certain actresses have that look, man, and she looked like
she actually has sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off. I know people
good,
hate
man.
it when I do that. Remember where you're at. But she looked like Matilda from The Professional. Like she literally did.
Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
No, but Spaney was great, man, and she's done some other genre work before, things that we didn't like so much. Like she was in that Craft remake, and then
was she? Which one did she play? The main role?
I think she was the main girl with the super short hair. The white girl with the super short hair who was like the lead actress in it. And then she was in the Pacific Rim sequel, if I remember.
Oh, okay.
Too. She was
really?
Like
God, she must have been really young.
She was like the orphan girl.
Yeah, she must have been in her like early teens, if that.
But I really liked her dynamic with Kirsten Dunst and the way that they kind of played off each other, and just the whole mentoring, however reluctantly, that goes about between the two of them, I thought was really great. Sammy, as you mentioned, I've seen him in countless things over the years, man, and he is always just that kind of steadying presence as he is in this film too, as he, kind of accompanies our group, without getting too much into it. And dude, I like the partner of Kirsten Dunst's character, man, like the Hispanic guy.
Yeah, he was fun.
Yeah, his interplay was.
Although I was worried where his character was heading.
Oh, there's one scene early on in particular, right?
Yeah.
Later on,
where I'm like, where are they going with this?
Yeah, which actually explains the presence of that character actually accompanying on the trip. But yeah, man, acting was top to bottom, and there's a scene in the first trailer, I don't know if it's in any of the later ones, where you see Kirsten Dunst's husband, Jesse Plemons, I want to say his name is.
Jesse Plemons.
Plemons, yeah.
Oh, they're actually married in real life? Are you serious?
Married for a while, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Movies together as well.
Huh.
Yeah, but that scene which you see in the trailer is about as white knuckle as anything I can remember witnessing inside a theater in recent memory. The tension in the trailer is only a taste, and it, man, dude, I was like sweating during that scene, and
what kind of American are you? Like I was like, oh my God, this dude.
Man.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, it's only a taste of that scene there, which is terrific. But that's actually a good segue, I think, into just the filmmaking aspect of it, cinematography and whatnot, because that scene made me feel, the cliche of on the edge of my seat, gripping the hand rests and stuff, but it totally did. And the scenes where you're actually in the midst of combat with these journalists who are, right in the midst of it, right in the thick of it, I legitimately felt that I was right there, and I was almost like reeling at times with exhaustion, just like you see them after the fact, where they gotta have a smoke and a drink to kind of calm their nerves down after they get out of the war zones and stuff, man. And yet the tone of the war zones at times, without getting too into it, was definitely one of the unexpected aspects. But it's how, just to jump right back to the storytelling really quick, it's how they approach the subject of documenting war that I think is going to surprise a lot of people.
Well, and that does tie into the filmmaking hand in hand. Like this was masterclass level filmmaking, in my opinion. Like it is. What I loved in particular about it is it's about journalists, right? Particularly photojournalists, even more particularly war photojournalists, And you get a veteran and a rookie, and the interplay. Like, that was the story I had no idea that we were going to get. And that it was going to be a road trip, and that was what we were going to explore, and we were just going to get glimpses into America circa Civil War #2. And I love it on that level. Like, I gotta say that I love the film on a lot of levels. The ultimate story level was not one of those levels, but a lot of other levels I absolutely adored it. And the filmmaking was one. And the you mentioned something as far as the characters, Kirsten Dunst's character and the rookie's character, and I gotta say how they kind of mirrored each other as far as who's getting dragged around by the back of their vest according to which time in the movie was
As
intriguing as fuck.
Yes.
I was like, holy shit, everything's reversed. I was like, this is so clever and so well done. So like the movie is phenomenal on a filmmaking level. It really, really is. And the other thing is, because it's photojournalists, there are times where the moving pictures are interrupted by still frames that yes, they interrupt the moving pictures, but it somehow draws you into everything even more, in spite of interrupting the moving pictures. So like I admired the style and the approach and the execution and the payoff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's a lot to love with the filmmaking in this.
Totally, man. I mean, to just further expand on what you were just saying about those still images, like, so much is happening so quickly that it actually added like a big exclamation point to some of those most poignant,
Did you see this?
powerful moments.
Yeah. Did you see this?
And it's often, and it's usually these harrowing, horrific sort of moments within the battle, the most cathartic, crazy stuff, and it just, it's like underlining it, putting it in bold, exclamation point behind things that could easily be lost when stuff is going so frenetically at the audience, and for all those experiencing it on the screen, for all the characters too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and the sound design, dude.
I was just gonna say, it goes right
Yeah.
along with the filmmaking. The sound design was incredible. The effects also were incredible, because they, all the gore effects and stuff were
war, man.
Yeah,
War
were
as hell.
practical. A lot of post carnage practical, which is great, but also a lot of really cool. Like, I never thought that tracers going through the sky at night could be a backdrop for an entire scene and like make it so much more engaging.
Dude,
And
there's
it
that other
was
one.
amazing.
That other one where they drive through the fiery forest too was just
Oh my god, that was
breathtaking.
so what a great way to accomplish what that scene accomplished,
And especially
without going
with
to like the
Sophie, it's just,
cheesy thing that most people would have done, like a fire. Like, okay, hang on, I stopped myself.
Sorry.
But like, no, I'm just saying. But normally they would go a much different route with what that scene accomplished. But the fact that they went that way, like a bit of wonder, in and amongst the carnage, and it was so fucking cool.
Yeah, especially because of the narrative beat that scene
Right.
accompanies.
Right.
What's
Right.
just happened and
Right.
whatnot. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it was powerful stuff. It truly was, and that's the thing. Whereas this might not live up to certain people's expectations, thinking it's going to be a certain kind of movie, based on some of the trailers and whatnot, and based on at least the very broad premise that we're given on IMDb and Wikipedia. I still think that, as you were mentioning, especially from the acting and from the technical standpoint, everything else top to bottom, quips about the storytelling aside, extent of explanation, whatever, I mean, these things, everything else is on such a stellar level that this is one that I genuinely say, especially with the controversial subject matter and everything, depending on what side of both social and political viewpoints you may be, it's one that I would declare, whichever side you reside on, or if you're more so in the middle like me, you still need to see this to find out what it's actually all about, and just kind of pronounce your own judgment, as opposed to just the sort of knee-jerk mentality that a lot of people, I think, are just going to read a synopsis and then just either get up in arms or be like, yeah, there's going to be both of those big-time sort of reactions to it by people who haven't even seen it, just
agreed.
based on what they read on paper.
Agreed. Yeah, guys, this movie is very much worth your time. Again, the effects, the ones that needed to be practical were practical. There was probably a good amount of CG enhancements throughout, but nothing that I could put my particular hands on. It was a war movie, and I'm sure they enhanced some of the war scenes with CG, but a lot of it, most of it, in my estimation, my, layman's eye, was amazing practical stuff. I thought they were phenomenal effects wise, and I mean,
I'd say some of the only like actual visual effects maybe would be, you see some shots in the trailers, right, of just the destruction of these cities and things like that, and so that's probably where you saw the
some CG enhancements to actual footage. Right
yeah, exactly, the dual best of both worlds, so to speak, in that regard. I would say. And also the fact that they sprinkle in actual beyond the score or lack thereof, because a lot of scenes have no score at all. It's just sound dropping out after bombs explode and things of that nature.
Just sound design.
Yeah, but there's also an interesting use of actual music, pop, like songs and whatnot, actual, with people singing and things like that, depending on the mood. There's one where you get this rap drop song, and it totally is right there. I couldn't tell if it was Public Enemy or somebody else, but it was definitely giving me those sort of very politically charged vibes, but yet almost like kind of a snark about it too. And then one scene in particular, which is when a certain conflict between two sides is ending that the journalists were there for, but then we also have some serene, like almost like singer-songwriter stuff at times. It's just that when they decided to go beyond score or lack thereof, there is good use of actual songs as well, I would say.
I agree with you. There was a lot of good needle drop moments that were like, holy shit, wow. Interesting way to use that, you know what I mean?
The ante, yeah.
There was a lot of songs I wasn't fully aware of, I'll be honest, but that doesn't mean they didn't fit. I actually kind of like that because it expands my horizons, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, it was an interesting viewing experience. Definitely worth experiencing in the theater if you have the extra money to do so. I don't know that it's 100% necessary to see in the theater, but there are some big sweeping vista shots that help establish, the world via scale, the scale that they're showing you, So if you're in
IMAX,
we did see it in IMAX, so we saw it on the biggest screen possible. So yeah, I can see the value of a big screen for this film. However, if it's too expensive for you to afford right now, I think it's okay, and you will still appreciate it on a big screen TV at home.
Yeah, I guess I could echo that sentiment. It's not really what justifies it. Well, I think if you're interested in the subject matter, definitely go to a theater to see it. But if you're a little more on the fence, because of the fact that it has that more personal sort of feel to it at times, and it's grand in subject matter, but as far as in execution, it is smaller and more condensed and more personal. That's one of the only things where I would say, yes, if you're more on the fence about it, it's not ultimately necessary to rush out. So
right, agreed.
Yeah.
So there you go, guys. I think that's going to do it for our thoughts on Civil War. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you've seen the film, or if you haven't, are you interested to see the film, or do you not want to get involved in this kind of discourse? That's understandable too nowadays.
It's going to be a divisive one, man. I definitely, for both those who have seen it and who haven't. So that's the most interesting thing about it.
So yeah, that's going to do it for our thoughts on Civil War. We will be back later this week with our thoughts on Arcadian, which is an upcoming Nicolas Cage creature feature that is coming out this week as well. So I want to put that review out this week as kind of counter programming to Civil War for horror fans that just want to get back to the horror of it all.
Yeah, so, these are different types of horror. That's for
very much so. Very much so. So yeah, come back and take a look at that. But thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly appreciate it. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And Gracias, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, Stay scared.